Japan is doomed, even Elon Musk agrees. You might be thinking, how come? Why am I saying that Japan is doomed? What could possibly be the reason for such an outrageous statement? Let me share with you the very reason. Japan is on the verge of a crisis that Japan has never seen before, and it is a crisis that most probably Japan won't be able to fix or even survive. It is a crisis more deadly to Japan's existence and more damaging than any natural disasters such as the treacherous typhoons or even the earthquakes it faces. This crisis can end a country as great as Japan. Now, what is this crisis that threatens Japan in its entirety that's even worse than a natural disaster? It is a crisis of population collapse, because of which Japan's very existence may be in question, possibly even within the next 2 generations, because of its little to non-existent birth rate. As seen in this Google search picture, Japan's birth rate in 2024 is estimated to be 6.995 births per 1,000 people, which is a 0.26% decrease from 2023. Even Elon Musk himself stated that Japan as a society will disappear if something does not change. However, unfortunately, it seems like with the current population and cultural trends as they are now, nothing is going to change, as more and more young adults move into cities where they are unable to sustain the lifestyle due to uncertain economic and job market situations, which causes them to make a decision. Either they have to decide to have fewer kids or no kids at all.
I really want to have a kid in the future, but I'm kind of concerned about the childcare or financial support that I can get.
Based on the data and facts, this population collapse of Japan is going to continue and even going to accelerate at a much higher rate.
The overall population of Japan is plummeting last year by 800,000 people.
This will cause a higher population of parents that will never become grandparents. They will never be able to see their grandkids because their kids won't have any to begin with. Can you imagine a society like that? Who would have thought that Japanese parents wouldn't be able to see their grandchildren and experience the joy of life with their grandkids? Japan's birth data shows that the country only had 758,631 births in 2023 for a country that has currently about 125 million people. That's less than 1% population growth. In the same year, there were roughly double the amount of deaths. In simple terms, that means the Japanese are dying twice as fast as they are being born. For a population of 125 million, less than 1 million were born, and there were almost 2 million that died. This is a huge tragedy for the Japanese civilization that goes unnoticed. With a record low birth rate, the Japanese are seeing a record low marriage rate, and the younger generation is moving further and further away from marriage and kids. Because of these trends, Japan's future looks bleak, if there is a future at all. If things go as they currently are, there may not be any way to reverse the situation unless Japan somehow manages to have its people focus more on old traditional family values of getting married and having children, and bringing back the nuclear family that built the great country to what it is today, leaving more and more empty homes in Japan. Even with many different types of incentives to have children given by the government, the Japanese people still refuse to marry and have children. Japan as we know it is refusing to survive. There are elementary schools in Japan that are being shut down left and right because there are literally no kids to go to school. Even junior high schools are getting shut down, forcing kids to travel further to go to school due to the lack of children in the area.
I don't know if there will be any children left in the village by the time I'm a nursery school teacher. But if there are, I want to come back and teach here.
Imagine the empty playgrounds, the empty school building that used to nurture the future generations, just sitting there collecting dust. All those faculty members, such as teachers, cafeteria workers, janitors, all without work, having to migrate to different locations or industries to find work. The population of most cities is on the decline. Imagine if this keeps happening year after year. What would happen? You can make a guess. Which, based on the current trends, seems extremely likely to happen. It seems inevitable. Who would have thought that a brilliant society like the Japanese, which is famous for its strong work ethic and value system, would go down like this? Not because of any external factors or enemies, but because of their own internal societal views shifting to not starting a family and having children.
It's hard to meet someone get married and start a family.
Not just the educational facilities such as schools, but even local businesses are shutting down, closing their doors for good. And it's not rare to see abandoned businesses in the city.
In the future, it'll be much quieter and emptier. In fact, it's predicted there will be 15 million abandoned homes by the end of the century.
Imagine going back to your hometown and seeing all those beautiful memories of the local grocery stores, the restaurants' convenience stores being abandoned and empty due to the lack of population. The fact there are no people there anymore. Even in city halls and the malls, all you see is an older crowd and there are less and less of the youth to be seen. In some restaurants and businesses, you see more elderly than the younger generation working since there aren't many of them around in the first place. This trend is not only limited to Japan, but to many countries around the world. We will cover those countries in the upcoming videos, so that people can in some sense get a warning that what was once thought as a success for society, mainly which was to get an education, find job, find work, and move to the city to earn more and more income. This definition of success is the deadly cause of the problem. Let me ask you a question. What do you think is the cause? Why is this happening? Comment below your thoughts. Do you agree that moving into the city and adopting a city lifestyle is the root cause of this problem? Or do you disagree? What do you think is the root cause of the problem that could possibly be causing this severe decline in the Japanese population? What would make you yourself want to have children in this day and age? What does Japan need to do to survive from collapsing from within due to the alarming rate at which the workforce is dying out, causing the country to struggle? Do you know that Japan's population is expected to drop below 100 million in the next 25 years? That will be a decline of nearly 25 million people as the birth rates continue to go down. The population fall could be even worse due to the fact of constantly decreasing birth rate, unless Japanese government comes out with some sort of policies to reverse the current trend of low birth rate. Otherwise, this is going to cause a collapse of the economy, as people will grow old, resulting in a demographic shift of higher percentage of retired people and less percentage of working-age individuals. With the working class decreasing and the retirees increasing, how will the population support those that are retired? In 2020, there will be roughly double the amount of people who are retired compared to those working, and with the birth rate constantly falling at a rapid pace and the people still getting older, how will Japan support its hardworking citizens? What will happen to those who spent their whole lives working day and night, all those rough hours to provide for themselves and their children with the hopes of a retirement, where they can enjoy the rest of their years after doing their duty for their family and for their country? All we can see is terrible news for Japan's pension being squeezed to give out whatever it can. The government is printing more and more money to support the retirees, which is similar to putting a small band-aid on a serious wound. It'll look like the situation has been treated. However, it is far from healed, and the situation is far from fixed. There are some countries facing low population growth that have decided to open their borders and let flocks of immigrants in to save them. Could bringing in more immigrants by changing the immigration policies possibly be the only potential solution to this imminent disaster falling upon Japan? But is this really the best solution? If there are fewer Japanese and more immigrants, will Japan still remain Japan with its vibrant culture and rich heritage? Will it still be the same Japan many wish to visit, vacation, and move to? Will Japan still be Japan if there are little to no Japanese left there? Is there hope, or will this be the downfall of Japan as we know it? The Japanese labor laws are similar to many countries with 40-hour work weeks, but in reality, the workload from many companies far exceeds that, with some almost doubling the hours. And being the hardworking people that they are, the Japanese don't see this necessarily as a bad thing. In some sense, it's simply proving their loyalty to their companies. But with these rough expectations not being compensated as much as they need to, for it causes many to be in situations where they are too busy working to start a family, or the thought of a family in itself keeps them away from work and their ambitions due to having to work even harder to get promotions. With families being something that can be seen as another hurdle, causing more and more of the Japanese to focus more on careers and less on reproduction, further increasing the amount of people that don't have kids, lowering the population more and more. With enemies nearby such as China with their massive population, what can Japan do to defend itself when there are fewer and fewer Japanese there to defend their homes? With the way things are going now in the world, and not knowing what the future may hold, A deadly disease such as a dying population is detrimental to any country. What will Japan look like with no Japanese left? With more and more abandoned facilities and homes, with once busy streets bustling with activity and hopes and dreams of many hardworking people, now all empty without a single soul to be seen. Is this the future of Japan, the collapse of the beautiful country as we know it? Is there a way to save this wonderful country with its amazing people, or is hope lost? Is it already too late? Is there nothing else that can be done? And is Japan going down the inevitable doom of no existence? What are your thoughts? What do you think will happen? What does the future hold for Japan? Comment below, let us know your opinion. If you were to make a guess based on what you are seeing online or around you, do you think this population decline is a good thing or a bad thing? Share your opinion in the comments. We will select a few comments and highlight them in future videos so that the world can get to know your opinion on this topic of population decline that is going to be the leading cause of the end of Japanese civilization and culture.